Subscribe to The Honest Critique for current affairs, movie, book, and product reviews. Also, make sure you press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the video series are solely those of the individuals and do not necessarily represent those of The Honest Critique and its employees. The following video contains strong language which may be offensive to some viewers. Viewer discretion advised.
Greetings and a warm welcome. It's a pleasure to host Professor Dan Schueftan, who is the Director of the National Security Studies at the University of Haifa. He was also an advisor to Israel's National Security Council and to former Prime Ministers Yitzhak Rabin and Ariel Sharon. So thank you so much, sir, for taking your time and speaking to us. On October 7th, the events that we saw was on an unprecedented level that we have not expected, especially since there was nothing much happening with the Hamas and Israel's engagement in the last 2 years in any sort of conflict. So what's your take on what happened on October 7th?
Put it in historic context.
Yeah.
Only the last 2 years, it's the last 100 years. In the last 100 years, since encounter with Arabs in Palestine and the Jewish population here, you've had massacres and you've had Arabs trying to kill Jews. Else is to kill our children and not so much to give their own children a better life. And this is a problem that was very difficult to overcome because people usually tend to assume that the basic human behavior of civilized human behavior is common to everybody. We are facing a society that is barbaric. And let me be very specific here. I'm not only speaking about the terrorists, I'm speaking of the fact that these terrorists are the only heroes that this society has. This is a society that has no other role models except people who kill civilians and rejoice it and are happy to mutilate children and women and old people. If they would have targeted only soldiers, I would say, okay, they're our enemies and we must take the consequences of war. But we're speaking about barbarians. And again, not just the terrorists themselves, but the schools are called after them. Everybody considers them to be the only heroes. They're at the top priority of the administration and the government, not only in the Gaza Strip, but also in the West Bank. And this is what these people want. They want to kill us. And for 100 years, nothing has changed. You go back to 1929, and you will find exactly what you've seen here on the 7th of October. Now, we will correct our intelligence mistakes. We will correct our operational mistakes. The Israeli army is still the strongest army in the region. Even strong and very good armies make mistakes. We made mistakes. We're going to correct them. But more important than anything else, I think we are going to correct, we are about to correct, to a large extent, Israeli public opinion has already corrected the wrong perception of the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people has a deep flaw of inability and unwillingness to accept any kind of historic compromise. What they want is our destruction. The only future they see is on the ruins of not only the state of Israel, but also of the Jews in general. Hamas, on top of it, is also anti-Semitic against any Jew anywhere. And with these barbarians, we have to deal the way you deal with barbarians.
And that is actually very critical, as you mentioned, Professor. I wanted to actually go a little deeper into that and understand the disengagement that happened after 2005 onwards. And we saw Hamas coming in 2007. There has been back and forth multiple times. But when was the last time have we seen something going to this extent that the Prime Minister will declare a full-scale war on Gaza?
We haven't had for many years, I think since the establishment of the State of Israel, this kind of success for the barbarians that they had in a very short time. We had it about 20 years ago with the so-called Second Intifada, where suicide bombers came to our homes in Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem, in Haifa, in Israeli cities, and killed as many people as they could. We crushed them at the time. Now their success in terms of the condensed event was much larger. But again, this is something we should have known they won't. But people tend to forget in the Second Intifada when they realized how barbaric the Palestinians are, but they forgot it after 20 years. And we out if we give them electricity and we give them water and we help their export and we allow them to import, for instance, the cars that they fitted their machine guns on, the cars that were used for military purposes were brought through Israeli ports to Gaza because we believed the lie that they needed to rebuild their houses. We gave the permission for them to have concrete, and the only thing they wanted concrete for was for their tunnels. Now, we assumed wrongly that what they want is of a humanitarian nature. I think we should now be much more careful and see to it that these barbarians cannot do what they want to do. And again, this is not just the terrorists themselves. This is the entire infrastructure, the social infrastructure, the human infrastructure, the way they teach their children in kindergartens, the way they teach their children in schools, the only heroes they have, the only role model they have. We must understand that we are facing a society that is barbaric, not just a bunch of terrorists who behave in a barbaric way, but the people who are glorified because they behave in a barbaric way.
That's exactly what I wanted to base my next question's premise, actually. That Prime Minister Netanyahu's strategy has always, in the last few years especially, has been to shrink the conflict with the Palestinians and building relationship with other Arab countries. And we have seen that how that has taken a backseat, actually, with the recent event, especially with the Hamas attack. Does this now again shift the focus to the Palestinian issue?
I don't think so, at least not for long. Will the war make things more difficult in the Arab world because you have public opinion? For instance, in Jordan, a very large portion of the population is Palestinian and Muslim Brothers. So again, you have there public opinion that has the same barbaric priorities as other Palestinians. So Jordan, the king, has to pretend that this is something that he supports. Otherwise, he cannot reign in Jordan. We have, unfortunately, also very radical public opinion in large parts of Egypt. So will it for a while be slower? Yes, but in the long run, look, there are two fundamental things that will affect the history of this region. A, it is impossible to reach any kind of compromise with the Palestinians because, unfortunately, not only do they not want compromise, but they get billions of dollars from people all over the world because of their humanitarian problem. And then this money goes to educate them to be barbarians and to help them to get the means to behave in a barbaric way. So this is a dead end anyway. Concerning the Arab world, we have constantly improving relations with Arab states. Arabs throughout the region understand that Israel is a force for stability that can help them defend themselves against the barbarians in Iran. But the difference between the barbarians in Iran and the Palestinian barbarians is that in Iran, you have a healthy society with a barbaric leadership. And once they get rid of this barbaric regime, Iran is an extremely successful and also potentially pluralistic democratic society that can be extremely successful and in the long run will help build stability in the region. Among the Palestinians, what is wrong is the society, so it's much deeper. There is no way they can prevent the trend from continuing to go in a direction where Israel is cooperating with countries like the UAE who want to build a good life for people in the Middle East. We have changes in Saudi Arabia that are very positive. You have other countries in the region who understand the danger of Iran and are willing to work together with Israel. Will it be delayed? Yes. Will it be stopped? I don't think so. I think we will have a delay, we will have a setback, it will be temporary. And the real question at the moment is not the Palestinians, but will Hezbollah join? Will Iran use it as an opportunity for a regional war? At the moment, it doesn't look this way. Because Hezbollah will realize what we're doing in the Gaza Strip we can do in Lebanon. Second, because the United States is standing very firmly on the Israeli side vis-a-vis Iran and Hezbollah. So the attempt to drive a wedge between Israel and the United States has failed. Even the Europeans, who you usually cannot count on, are behaving now after the Ukraine war in a different way. So I think that we are not going in a direction where the Palestinians can profoundly disrupt positive trends in the Middle East. Again, they can slow them down. There can be setbacks from time to time, but that's it.
But do you see, Professor, by any chance or by any means, this idea that existed among some policy leaders in Israel, that if we give economic assistance and if we try to make the lives of Gazans better, they will not attack us? But we saw that it was just the water pipes that Israel used to provide for the waters to Gaza. They used to dig up those water pipes and use those rockets on Israel.
I don't think that we will go soon back to the illusion that what they want is a better life. For them, a better life is to kill us. They have no interest whatsoever in giving their children a better future. They're not willing to behave as civilized human beings. They have rejected it for 100 years, and I don't see them adopting it now. Many of them will say what happened on October 7th is a proof that their way works, and they will look for the next opportunity to do something similar. You must be stupid, really stupid, to repeat the same profound mistake that we had on the eve of October 7th again and try to improve their lives. They want to destroy our lives. If that also, improves theirs, they can live with it. But this is not their objective. Their objective is to destroy our lives.
And Professor, I want to talk about something which I wanted to have a conversation with you, that in 2005, we have seen the disengagement happening. And you have been credited with the concept of the unilateral disengagement or separation that you have articulated in your book, Disengagement, Israel and Palestinian Entity. Now, looking back at what we have seen, do you feel that Israel is weaker having disengaged from Gaza and probably would want to go back to the status quo ante, as the Prime Minister probably has not made his vision clear of what he wants to expect out of this? But was the disengagement back in 2005 the right decision looking at what events have transpired on October 7th?
Yes, I think the decision in 2005 was justified. The behavior after 2005 was a major mistake. It is justified to say these people are our enemies, and we rather have our enemies outside us than inside us. I think that this was the right decision to take. But what we should have done since 2005, and we didn't do, is that we should have attacked every time they get something, because if they have a missile, this missile will be used. They don't need it for self-defense. They need it for killing us. I think that when we occupy portions of the Gaza Strip, we will not stay there. But I hope our policy will be every time they get something, we destroy it. And if it starts a war, let it start a war today, because tomorrow the war will be more dangerous and more hurtful from an Israeli point of view. In other words, the assumption should be, if they have something, they will use it against us, so let's kill them when they have it. Because they have it, let's kill them. Let's not wait until they kill us. Okay? When you have a serial murderer coming into a room with a knife, he did not bring the knife to cut tomatoes. He brought it to cut your throat. So try to kill him before he cuts your throat, and don't wait until he also gets a gun. So I think the mistake was to allow them to arm, to give them an option. For instance, every time they have a parade in Gaza parading their weapons, we should have attacked this parade and kill everybody in this parade, because regardless if at the moment they're making war, they will come to kill us anyway. So let's kill their terrorists while they are yet not ready to kill us. Now, the problem is that because they are a barbarian organization getting the support for their barbarism from the society, they use their children and their women and their old people as human shields. And it's very difficult to hit them without causing collateral damage. We should continue to be very careful about it, because we are civilized people fighting with uncivilized people. And therefore, we should be very careful regardless of the fact that they are barbarians. But we need to destroy whatever they have the moment they have it in terms of weapons that can hit us, and not wait until they use it against us. This was the mistake.
So, Professor, one thing that I want to add from here, that you also mentioned in an interview with the Jerusalem Post that we need to leave Gaza not because it will bring peace, but that will be perpetual terror. And Israel is weaker with them than without them, actually. But looking at what the Prime Minister is doing currently, is he not trying to go back to the 2005 status quo ante, that you probably would want the Hamas to go, and probably some amount of Jewish life, like what we have in the West Bank, to actually have in Gaza, to control it?
We will be able, because we will insist on it physically, by force, against any kind of opposition, local or international. When we need to get into Gaza to destroy their weapons, we will get in. To kill their people, we will get in. We will do in the Gaza Strip a part of what we're doing in the West Bank. The West Bank is 100 times more dangerous than the Gaza Strip. And I think that the whole idea of the two-state solution is now finally dead, because in the West Bank, the sentiment is like in the Gaza Strip. Were it not for the Israeli presence, Hamas would have taken over the West Bank as well as the Gaza Strip. The only reason they can't do it is that the Israeli presence prevents it. So if Israel gets out of the West Bank, it will be dominated by Hamas or any kind of barbarians of that kind. And then they will bring in the Iranians, and then they will bring in all the barbaric militias from all over the world. The Iranians are already recruiting them from Afghanistan and Pakistan and what have you. And these barbarians will be sitting at 10 kilometers from Tel Aviv and along our population centers. So letting them have a sovereign state will be suicide from an Israeli point of view. So even the people who had the hope, and I would have loved to do it, to allow the West Bank to become controlled by Arabs, if it were Jordan, we could live with it in spite of the fact that a large part of the Jordanian population is the same people, the Palestinians, who behave in such a barbaric way. But if it is about a Palestinian state in the West Bank, it will be suicidal for Israel to let them have sovereignty, because the only thing they want to use their sovereignty for is to kill us. Now, I still would have wanted, as problematic as it is, that we don't control their everyday life. But we have to get in and kill them the moment their terrorists have weapons. We have to kill the terrorists before they decide to act against us. And if it doesn't look good, it doesn't look good. But again, if I could, I would not control these areas. Look, we could have occupied these areas in 1949, and we decided not to. We wanted in 1993 to give them, I mean, we've given Gaza to Arafat, we've given the cities to the Palestinians because we wanted to try to get some kind of coexistence with them. And every time we gave them something, every time we allowed something to happen, the only thing they wanted is to use it in order to kill us. So I don't think you can cheat the Israeli people again on it, at least not in the foreseeable future. Now, if one day the Palestinians become Norwegians and become civilized and can be treated like civilized people, then perhaps you can open the question again. But as long as they are barbarians supported by other barbarians educated to barbarism, there is nothing you can do about it for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, Professor. And this actually brings me to a couple of last questions that I want to ask you. And one of them is, where do you see the end game for this conflict? I mean, we have seen...
I don't. Look, the whole idea that every problem has a solution is ridiculous. I mean, you must be, it's very good to believe in this if you're an engineer. Okay, so you say, I have a gap, I'll build a bridge, how much concrete, how much nuts and bolts, how much steel, I'll build a bridge. Human problems very often don't have a solution. Look at radicalism around the world. Can you eliminate it? No, it pops up and people behave in a barbaric way, and they can do it for hundreds of years, okay? If they don't care about themselves, if they don't care about their children, our confrontation with the Palestinians has no solution, because the Palestinian people have chosen the way of barbarism rather than of civilized coexistence. They are not willing to accept a live and let live approach to life. And unless there is a revolution in what the Palestinians are, and by the way, revolutions have occurred, cultural revolutions have occurred. Turkey had a positive cultural revolution under Ataturk and a very negative cultural revolution under Erdogan. So sometimes political cultures change. Can we hope that one day the Palestinians will become civilized as a community willing to accept coexistence? We can hope for it, but there are no signs of it whatsoever. Whatsoever. The Palestinians had one leader that was a nation builder, Salam Fayyad, a person who is everything the Palestinians should hope for. He never had more than 2% support among the Palestinian people, and they support barbarians like the Hamas, and they support terrorists, and they support anti-Semites like their president Mahmoud Abbas, Abu Mazen. So this is what these people at the moment are willing to deliver.
If you were the advisor to the Prime Minister today, what would you advise him to go full ground offensive and take over Gaza, or to actually just destroy their offensive capabilities and let them stay how they are?
I would not advise him to stay in Gaza. And by the way, I don't think Israel will stay in Gaza. I think they don't need my advice on this. It's simply not doable. Do we need to destroy Gaza in a very fundamental way by killing their terrorists, destroying their infrastructure, making it clear that if you behave this way, you cannot afford the consequences, even if you don't care for your children? I mean, they pretend to care for their children. Only yesterday, you know, they one of their misfired missiles killed people, and they couldn't do anything but lie. I mean, this is what they do because there are people who are willing to accept their lies. We must hit them very, very hard. We must devastate Gaza as to the extent that it takes in order to destroy everything Hamas and the Islamic Jihad and their supporters have. But I don't think we should stay there. But again, every time they get a missile, or if they have a place that can produce missiles, we must destroy it, regardless if they cheat that they need it for something else. Their number one priority for the foreseeable future is to kill us. So whatever they have, we must destroy if it can kill us by misusing it, because they misuse everything they have. Every humanitarian help that will assist them will first of all go to support the terrorists, and only whatever is left for it will go to the citizens. So I would be very careful in what I allow getting into Gaza, because whatever civilized people use for the benefit of civilized life, they use for killing us.
And how can this not turn out to be an entirely Israel versus Iran conflict? How should the Prime Minister deal with this so that it doesn't just become a conflict theater?
I think that the Israeli society will not allow any prime minister to be stupid enough to let the Palestinians again build their power against Israel. I think that the differences here inside the Israeli society are relatively small. We quarreled over the last year over things that are very easy to compromise over, and it was because radicals on the right and radicals on the left and radicals in the religious community and so on were given too much influence on our society. When it comes to what we're doing now, there is very little disagreement in Israel, and I don't think that another prime minister would fundamentally behave in a different way.
Sure, Professor. That's all the questions I had.
Thank you.